Hey, welcome.
Hello, hello.
Okay, another WSDG booth talk. Very possibly the most exciting one. I mean, Elliot Shiner, who cares? You know, Jimmy
Ann
Douglas,
Mincelli.
who cares? Ann Mincelli.
Oh, my goodness.
But now, the star of the show, Rob Jaczko. Technically, I've been working for Rob for 30 years. So very little introduction needed. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, John, for having me. It's really awesome.
Everything right on the screen. He is the longtime chair, along with his co-chair, Dan Thompson, who's close by but refuses to get on the camera. Maybe we're going to suck him in. We'll see.
We'll see if we can pull
We'll
him in.
see if we can pull him in.
He's tough.
Run
tough.
the Berklee College of Music MP&E program for what seems like an eternity. Clearly one of the best programs in the world, both music school and engineering school. Welcome.
Thank you, John. Thank you for having me. Thank you
Okay,
to everyone
okay.
at WSDG.
Okay, let's get to work. So who is this guy? Whoops, we're going to go. One of these days I'll learn how to work this. Is this true? Are all these things true?
Yeah. I mean, you know, life is long. You do things. I had a great career in Los Angeles making records and was a staff engineer at A&M Studios for
So
years.
how did that start, A&M?
Well, actually, I had no intention of working in Los Angeles. I was happily on staff at Blue Jay Studios in Carlisle, Massachusetts. We were the
How'd
first.
you get from Massachusetts to L.A.?
Well, I'll tell you, the phone rings, and I get a call one day from Shelley Yakis, who was the chief engineer at A&M.
Yes, we
and
know.
he said, I hear you want to move to L.A. I'm like, who told you that? And our
Very good salesmanship.
Absolutely.
By Shelley, yeah.
So our colleague Ed Gaudreau, who was then working at A&M, he preceded me by 6 months, went on to run the studios at Interscope.
What year is this?
This is January of '89. I started at A&M. So he called me in '88.
So you know Herb is a dear friend.
Oh, you know
close
Herb,
friend.
Herb and Lonnie, of
Herb
course.
and Lonnie, I talk to him every 2 weeks.
Oh my goodness.
He's become a very, very close friend, and I assume you at least
interacted
ran into
with
him.
Herb.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
He was very hands-on. Yeah.
Well, this was before Polygram bought A&M. So this was the end of the golden era of A&M being an
For
independent
me, at one
label.
time, I think that was the coolest record company on the planet.
Oh, I still think it's the
Yeah,
coolest
still,
record
yeah.
company on the planet.
And you were the chief engineer there?
No, I was a staff engineer among many, and our colleagues are roaming the halls of AES, some people that we worked with then. But Shelley called and said, you know, this guy, Ed Gaudreau, had impeccable training, and he's been tearing it up on the staff out here. And were there any other people that were trained in the same system that you were, Ed? And he said, oh, call my buddy Rob. We worked together for years in Boston. So I get a call out of the blue, and Shelley says, you want to come to L.A.? So this does not happen in 2024, I don't think. But,
Bah humbug. I think it can happen.
well, it could happen. But they flew me out, picked me up in a limo, put me up at the Roosevelt, and I toured all the rooms at A&M, and I happened to know 3 of the 5 clients or producers working that day. We made the loop, sat down in the lounge, and offered me a gig. And
The rest is history.
I called home to my then girlfriend and said, I've got great news. Would you marry me? Would you move to Los Angeles? I'm taking this gig at A&M. And that started.
She said yes to all of them.
She said yes to all of them. Our 34th anniversary is this coming weekend. So all's well that continues to end well.
We all have a serendipity story. That's a very cool one. Quickly, how do you get from staff engineer in Los Angeles to Berklee?
The Northridge earthquake.
That'll do it.
1994, LA gets rocked by the Northridge earthquake, and everyone re-examined their life. We all said, what are we doing? Hanging out with Springsteen and the Stones is really awesome. The quality of life is questionable right now. It was earthquakes, wildfires, the Rodney King riots, O.J. Simpson, every manner of social and natural malaise. And we just left. We, you know, like everybody else, we called a moving van. We went home to Boston, where we were from, and I had no particular plan.
But you just don't the next day end up as chair of the MP&E program at
Well,
Berklee.
almost you do. I
See,
happen
once again.
to stop by Berklee to say hello to all the people that I knew. I went to Berklee, so I was an undergrad at Berklee. I had an audio engineering degree. Before music production and engineering began, I was the last graduating class of audio engineering.
It's a small program at that time.
It was a very small program. It had nothing to do with production. It was all about consoles and flowcharts and schematics and so forth. And Bill Sheneman, the then chair, who was an original power station engineer, was the chair at the time. And he said, if you're in Boston, do some teaching. And I'm like, wow, I hadn't even considered that. So I taught part-time for 2 years and then became the assistant chair in 1997.
Who?
Sorry?
To who was the chair?
Bill Sheneman.
Bill
Sheneman was the chair. And then Bill, who is sadly departed now, but he had some health issues and stepped down in 2000, and I took over in 2000 as chair, and Dan Thompson and I have been partners in the enterprise for 25 years.
The same Dan Thompson that won't come on screen.
That one, that
He's
very
close,
one.
but he won't come on screen. All right,
So Dan and I have been co-chairing this enterprise for 25 years.
I know for my entire, I think I've been associated with Berklee almost about that amount of time as a guest lecturer and then as an adjunct and co-author of course with Dan. And for me, it's always Rob Dan. In fact, I think on many emails I've actually addressed you as Rob Dan, and it doesn't really matter who answers the email. I sort of think of you as one person. But obviously you're not one person. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Berklee. Okay, so we'll skip over the part where you and Dan build that program to what I think is clearly one of the best in the world.
Thank you.
Certainly one of the largest. Very special because it's a music school and an engineering school.
Absolutely.
And talk a little bit about I've been involved with other schools, as you know. I've designed studios for other schools,
sure,
lectured at other schools. But two things always struck me about Berklee. One is it's a music school and an engineering school,
right.
So that immediately separates it from a lot of the engineering-oriented schools.
That's right.
Many of those programs seem to be inside the physics department, or they're inside the IT department, or whatever. And then the other thing that always intrigued me was that you cannot enter Berklee into your program, which I always found somewhere between amazing and unfair.
Right.
And talk a little bit about that. What's the reasoning, and how does that work, and what are the problems with it or the benefits of it?
First off, I agree with you that our position as a discipline, as a major, set within a college of music where there are 6,000 hand-picked everyone audition students that come into the Berklee
College
University
of Music.
Everybody is a musician first and foremost.
You can't get in if you're not.
You can't get in. And frankly, I'm not sure I would have gotten in retrospect. When I went as a student, if you could cut a check, you got in.
You need to audition to get into Berklee.
Now you need to audition, and it's among the most elite audition process just to come into the college in the world, just given the sheer numbers.
Are people rejected? Is there?
Oh, absolutely.
Just can't play well enough.
Well, can't play well enough, or not prepared to be, competitive to learn the skills of music. But
now, it doesn't necessarily mean you're an instrumentalist. You could be a singer.
Well, singers are fit into the instrumentalist category.
Okay.
So everybody has a principal instrument, and everybody spends their first year immersed in the language of music.
Because I know, even if you want and plan on pursuing engineering, and you even announce it, you still have to play your instrument.
Right, you do. And within the freshman class, you need to apply to the music production and engineering major. And the reason is not to be exclusive or elitist. It's simply to manage studio time. Yeah. So even when John Storyk and team shows up and builds 10 new studios,
you still don't have enough.
There's more than twice as many people who want seats in those studios. And the program is predicated on hands-on access to world-class facilities. Period. So we're running about a 30% accept rate from within the college. 7 out of 10 eminently qualified individuals get the dreaded no letter because we run our studios 22 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's
You've told me that
no more time.
one of the least favorite tasks you have. Both you and Dan have said
It's
that.
heartbreaking. I mean, people leverage the farm in Argentina for real to be able to come, and they don't get in just due to the sheer numerics. Now, the upside is that those that do get in function at a very high level. So they're not only incredible musicians, but they have huge potential as technologists, engineers, producers, collaborators.
I can testify to that.
So the program rides at a very high level. So we're proud of that. But it is a heartbreaking process when your son or daughter comes to Berklee and can't get into the program.
Yeah, and that's your job.
And that's the job.
Oof. Do you just send out letters, or you phone call? Or
Oh, sure. When our office sends out the disposition letters, I can count on my watch the minutes before the deluge of families that come back at us saying,
Why?
Susie can't get in. What did she do wrong? You know, what could we do better? What are the alternatives? And
Well, let's
so-
talk about that,
Yeah.
because I'm glad you did that, because there's a new program at Berklee which
There
maybe is a little bit of an alternative.
Right.
Let's talk about that, because that seems really special.
Well,
While you're doing that, I'm just going to flash on some of the studios that
Right. So
did
these,
do,
you
that
know,
we
this
still
is
don't
our-
have enough of.
we don't have enough of. We could use many more of these, John. So if you get the call, be prepared.
If there were 5 more, let's just call these large recording studios,
Yes.
would you be able to fill them with students?
Clearly.
Clearly.
Absolutely. Not only did it provide extra capacity for things curricularly that we've never been able to deliver, because we built world-class purpose-built rooms like these, but we have other areas of the college that need access to the same facilities.
Right.
You can't deny film scoring doesn't need to put an orchestra on the scoring stage and record them.
Right.
So the competition from within, the backfill of all the other programs that required access to the facilities didn't really give us the growth that we wanted.
So let's talk about this new program, which is new, I think, right? A year old or 2 years
2
old?
years, 24
years,
months now.
Which
We're 2
seems
years
to
in.
maybe help this problem, this situation.
Well, yes
Or-
and no.
yes and
So
no. Oh.
during COVID, when we were all estranged and learning new workflows, and in fact, when you helped me design my studio,
Well, boy, you're making this easy. When Rob couldn't get into the Berklee studios because no one was allowed to.
so save that. We'll go
Okay,
there.
We'll go there. Okay. The idea came up.
The idea came up. We have long been thinking that we needed an alternative, a barrier-free alternative to people who wanted to study in MP&E.
Right.
And at the same time, the professional workflows are changing. They're evolving. Look around the show.
Not have
Have
changed.
exactly.
Absolutely.
So we will always and still need traditional large format console recording studios.
As
but
Chris Stone said, mothership studios.
absolutely.
But now we're talking about the satellites.
Our temples of sound will always be necessary.
Yes.
So we came up with an idea for a new major called independent recording and production.
Independent.
Now, it shares a lot of DNA with music production and engineering, which has been around for 41 years. We have a long track record of that major. The salient difference is that it is a laptop-based engineering experience. We're not training large format consoles in traditional studio
Which, of course,
settings.
means everybody can do it at home.
Everyone could do it everywhere.
Everywhere.
Right.
Which is what's happening.
Which
Not
is
for
what's
everyone,
happening.
but for many
Exactly.
people.
And even people who are traditionalist engineer producers working in traditional spaces, there's a portion of the workflow that requires this approach.
So that does not have a numbers barrier.
No, there's no application to come in. You could sign up and be an IRP major.
Well,
But
you need to get into Berklee.
Well, of course.
Yes. Okay.
Everything is from within
Okay,
the
okay,
college.
okay.
But the quid pro quo is that you do not have access to the rooms that you designed
At all.
for us at all. So that's an observation. But the plus is we've gone from 0 students in this major to 457 majors and 37 faculty in 24 months.
Do some of them then shift?
They do.
They do.
They try to apply to MP&E and they come backwards, if you will, through our acceptance process. But a vast majority of those students actually don't have aspirations to become service engineers in traditional studios.
This is what they want.
They're artists in their own right.
Yeah.
They're producers. They're content creators.
They're
beat
all
makers,
musicians.
They're all
Everybody
musicians.
at Berklee is a musician.
Right. So not everyone's career path wants to lead them to be a service engineer to show up at Abbey Road or Capitol and fly the console.
I used to, when I visit, of course, Berklee quite often to teach, and for years, Berklee had like a VIP suite where guests could
in
stay.
the dorms.
In the dorm, right in the dorm on the 6th floor. And that disappeared, sadly. So now I'm in a hotel. And, I mean, it would be amazing to be walking around at 10 or 11 at night listening.
Yeah.
I mean,
To what's happening on the floor.
serious musicians, very serious.
I mean, it's a fabulous environment, and there's hardly a booth here that doesn't have a touch point to someone from Berklee.
Yeah.
So I think the new offering of independent recording and production, I understand, and we predicted it would be wildly successful.
So what's the downside? What's the problem? Or is there a problem?
Well, I mean, the downside is that Berklee needs to respond in kind with different kinds of spaces.
Oh.
In terms of being able to roll in with your laptop into a monitoring environment. Doesn't need to be a cavernous space
No,
with
but
a large
maybe
tracking
more
room.
like a lab or
Production
some
suites.
Production suites, yeah.
So you built 4 production
Yeah.
suites
You
for
could
us
use 20
in this
more.
160 building. We could use 100 more. That's not hyperbole. We
Sounds
could fill
like good
them.
news for us.
Right. So if you get the remit, that's what it is. 100 of them. But that's the modality we
How
need.
are you accommodating these 400 students now?
In general classrooms.
General
so
classrooms.
these are adapted general classrooms.
Which I
for
can
this
tell you are not
instruction.
always perfect. For
They
this.
are seriously not
Not
perfect.
Okay. You
Because
said
they
it.
are adapted. They haven't
Yeah.
been purpose built for this.
But that can happen. That
it
could
will happen.
It will happen.
We
yeah.
will have new leadership coming on at the college in January, a new president. And,
let's talk about that.
and one of these initiatives certainly will
Yeah.
be to respond to the technology needs that we have.
A lot of the growth at Berklee over the last 10 years was due to Roger Brown, who was, it still is, an extraordinary man.
17 years of his
Yeah.
presidency.
And his fingerprints will remain at Berklee for a long time.
Forever.
The new buildings, programs.
Globalized campuses.
Yeah, campuses
Sure.
at different parts of the world. And he's now being replaced with a new leader, right?
Yes, there's a new fellow named Jim Lucchese who
Just
is coming
starting.
in
Just
in
coming.
January.
Great.
So
Terrific.
we've only had an opportunity to first meet him on the quiet, but when he arrives in the community, certainly
Did you meet him
people-
with Dan? Was it Rob Dan?
We did.
Okay.
We did.
Or is it Dan Rob?
Our friends at Sony right behind us were here, and we had a connection with Jim.
We're not going to get Dan
came
to
and
come
visited
up
us.
here. It's just not going to happen. All right. Well, I don't know. Well, before we leave, let's talk about this, because this is where you've lived for many years.
Yep,
When you,
I still
the
do.
girlfriend becoming wife and
True.
returning to.
This is the home she grew up in.
Lucky you.
Her father grew up in. Our kids are the 6th generation of the family to live on this property since the early 1900s.
This is back to the Pilgrims, right? Or almost.
Actually, her family came over on the Mayflower.
Okay,
With Stephen
was only
Hopkins
kidding
and some
and
of the
stumbled.
others, right?
Yeah.
So this is some serious Yankee history here.
Okay.
So during COVID,
I just went to Plymouth recently.
Did you?
This
You
is
saw the rock.
That rock is really ridiculously disappointing.
Well,
the
it's a
rock is
little
about
thing
as
down in the
it's
the
as
hole,
big as this
yeah.
table. It's a
It says
pebble.
1620 on it.
I'm like, expecting the Prudential rock, and it's a little pebble with a lot of tourists. It's
There you
very,
go.
very disappointing. But nevertheless,
So nevertheless, the Mayflower leads to here
and
in
in
some
one
way.
of these buildings, somewhere in the
So up here,
Up here,
above
right
above
there.
this structure, we had a large open space. It's a 30 by 20 space with A-frame.
But this is your personal studio.
Yeah. And during COVID, I called you. You'd been to the house before, so
I'd
you'd
been.
seen it before the treatment. And I said, John, we're in this global pandemic, as you well know. We're not leaving the house. And if I don't leave the house, me and everyone at AES, we can't work. What are we going to do?
What work were you? There's always been.
I've
Rob
always had
Jaczko
yeah,
work,
I've always had a freelance stream of work.
which
know.
Berklee never stopped you from doing.
No,
No, just
I
the
mean, in
opposite.
fact, encourages, because all of us who teach the discipline or run the discipline need to be active in the community.
Is that the
And
case with most of the full-time staff?
all of the full-time faculty.
Right.
There's a requirement for service
there-
to the profession, if
Okay,
you will.
okay.
That's a contractual thing, actually.
Oh wow!
So
I
it's
did not know that.
encouraged.
I didn't know it.
Although many faculty
Does that
are
mean
not
I have
here.
to keep working?
I think you do.
Oh.
So as long as, in fact, we have an evaluation coming up, John, and we better go off camera for that.
Yeah, we're going off camera.
Okay.
Good.
So bottom line was I called you up. I said, John, I can't, me and all your friends, we can't work. And you said, and I said, some broadband kind of absorption. The room is very live. What can I do? And you said, no. I'm starting a new technology.
Which we did, yeah.
have a sub company. We have some new analysis software. Let's work together. And your room can help be a proof of concept for
You
this new
were
Nairo
about number
process.
6 or number 7, and a very strange room. I mean, most of the rooms. Many of our rooms are rectangular,
Right.
but your shape, I mean, it took us days to get this modeled. And as a result, pretty much all of these that you see there are all new
these
and added.
panels, and we have a front wall with
Yeah.
a cloud. No one would set out, I don't think, purposely to build this geometry and say this is studio design.
No.
But as an adaptive solution, obviously, we didn't do any construction to this. We had
it was
surface.
The requirement was that it had to be surface mounted,
Right.
so that it could happen without destroying the room,
Right.
relatively quickly,
Sure.
relatively
And again, during
economically.
COVID, when we're not getting construction crews in to
No,
do
and
that.
it worked. And
And it
this
worked.
is where you work.
And it's fabulous. And in fact, in this year's 4-year consideration for the Grammys, 3 projects I mixed here are in the FYC list. So
Fantastic.
I know that the results have worked.
This was a little
for us.
bit of the treatment package that we ended up with using this software,
Yep.
which we're not going to spend too much time talking about.
Right.
We'll do that in other talks here. And it's actually, you're an early user of it, I guess almost a sort of experimental.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Use it, but it's about to, a piece of this program is about to become publicly available.
Great.
Yeah, right now it was just on a consulting basis.
Well, it's interesting that these topics tie together because as the world continues to evolve over the last 5
Yeah.
years, more people are working in this mode of operation
This
in non-standard spaces.
This is where we're going.
And that is, that is the kernel of truth for independent recording and production. And that doesn't mean, by the way, that there has been any diminished interest in our traditional music production and engineering major. In fact, we've seen the opposite happen, which is that was unpredicted. We thought maybe there'd be a little let off in the demand because we have this new offering.
Almost like the Mets last night.
I guess.
Go Mets. So in conclusion, Rob Dan, we can expect you to be at Berklee a little longer?
Well, I certainly hope so. I love the gig. We are celebrating our 30th anniversary at the college.
That's incredible.
Yes, I was 12 when I started, so I guess I have some space in front of me. But we've really had the opportunity to lead this program through a cataclysmic change. I mean, we used to require students pick up their reel of 2-inch and quarter-inch and analog tape stock and march across the street with their reels of tape. And we taught everything in the analog domain, of course. And then in comes Pro Tools and streaming and where we are now. Tremendous shifts in all aspects of the business. And the goal has and remains to be prepare people for relevant careers in the music industry. So that's what we're working on.
No, it's hard to go almost anywhere, any studio, any production credit, and not see a Berklee fingerprint somewhere involved. It's an amazing. Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you, John.
Dan,
Thank you for having
who
me.
still refuses to get on camera, but he's very, very close.
Thank you, John.
there. I guess it's still going to be Rob Dan, but every now and then I'll address it as Dan Rob.
There you go.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you,
Thanks
John.
for
Really
coming.
appreciate it.
Thank
Good
you.
to see you.